I'm going to go inside, get a kubectl and get my this. See, if you see, there is no passwords here. When you are dealing with the Kubernetes, right, you're going to do a lots and lots of certificates. By the way, see, this is the certificate data and key data. This is you need to be very careful about this one. Never share this main kube config file anyone. So that means if they have this file, they can get access to your admin level access to your cluster. So you should be very careful. Yeah. Okay, let me log into this machine. Hope say connect password. Still I'm getting it. Okay, still like 4 minutes. Any questions, guys? Any doubts here?
Is it because like if there are number of people on a team trying to manage this cluster, I mean that's how they normally do it? I mean, what is the reason behind you? I did not understand the reason because why we have to do this step here.
Which step? This one.
Yeah, like I mean, if there are like multiple people on the team, so if other people on the team needs to manage that cluster, they have to go in and do this step so they can do it from their own machine rather than logging into that master node. Is that why we are doing this?
Normally, we don't allow people to log into the master node. Okay, so because if somebody messed up the master node or something happens, somebody reboots, it's a problem, right? We don't want to do that one. So what we do is, see, if you say it won't be a number of people's managing that cluster. So in the Kubernetes, we have limited admins only, right? You want like 100 people who are using that one. So the main admins, if you see, there will be few guys only who has like admin level access. So even them also, see, we are not going to share this one with the whole file with them. So what we're going to do is we're going to create for each and every admin a cluster administrator role, by the way. And then what we're going to do is they will have their own config file. That means if you are a cluster admin, by the way, I mean, you are the administrator of the Kubernetes who manages, you will have your own config file. Every admin has their own config file. If everybody using the same config file, then it is very hard for the auditing, by the way. So I don't know who is logging in what. So everybody has, all the admin has a config file. It's called kube config file. Apart from that, what will happen is sometimes imagine you have a very big Kubernetes cluster, and you are going to, you have like a big department, actually a lot of departments who are going to use your cluster, and each department has their developers doing something. So what we are going to do is there is a concept called namespace in Kubernetes, by the way. There is a concept called, it's like you get ns, right? You're going to get, these are the default namespaces. So what we're going to do, when customer comes, the customer in my sense is maybe in the same company, a different department who is willing to pay money from their budget to use your service, by the way. I'm trying to say that. Now the customer comes and says that one, see, I have some internal websites and I really don't want to manage. I'm doing some cost cutting, so I don't have any admin. I want to put all those static websites in Kubernetes. Could you please tell me what is it? And we have our own catalog, the billing and everything, and we're going to say, okay, in order to run these 10 websites, you basically require some like 10 GB of RAM, as well like 20 CPU and calculation. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a namespace for that particular customer. In that namespace, we're going to put the limits for CPU and memory reservations, as well as the maximum limits. And then we're going to create, we know that who is the admin who is going to manage that one, right? There'll be some admin, some developer. So we're going to create a separate kube config file and then share that file with that guy, so that he will have only access to the namespace, nothing else. Is it clear?
Yeah, that's clear. So the developer would be the one who would be deploying these files in production domain, not the admin. I mean, just asking.
That depends, actually, that depends. Sometimes if the developer has that much of knowledge on Kubernetes and they don't want to waste the money on DevOps engineers or something, they'll do that. But most probably the role of a DevOps engineer is to the deployment. So the developer responsibility ends with getting the product or building a proper product. Once the product is done as a war file or some file, right, then it comes to the plate of DevOps engineer, right, who require create the pipeline and deployments. Basically, most probably developer won't interact with the deployments, because that's not his plate, actually. He's not his job, unless it
Okay.
is a startup. If it's a startup, you
Okay.
need to do all things. Okay,
Okay.
I think the Windows, yes. Any questions? So I'm going to decrypt the password and I'm going to download the remote desktop file, open it, connect it. Don't think it will work because take a default domain. Okay, I need to go to localhost. So I'm going to click on OK and log in, by the way.
Also, yesterday you were teaching us about creating a uh, getting a domain, registering a domain and adding those DNS entries. And without that,
Yes.
you were not even able to create a cluster. But today, we were even able to create a cluster without any of that kind of setup. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit confused. So how come we are able to do it today but not yesterday without that domain, purchasing a domain?
See, we are actually creating a cluster where we want having from internet access basically. So using COPS actually. And we are actually managing the state. See, one thing we need to understand here is COPS works in a different way. Whatever we are doing right now, this cluster is not a production grade cluster, because if this master goes down, everything is gone. Your whole cluster is gone basically. You can't get it up. Even if I shut down and restart, there is no cluster, and I need to put a special attention. And imagine if I want to add additional masters to this one, and it's a big manual job. If I want to add again this one, it will be a manual job basically. And if I want to upgrade the cluster basically, again it's a tedious job basically. So there is a lot of things which cops will make it easy for you for the management purpose. So that's why people use it, so that efficiently manage it. And many people are going for even for EKS and AKS. Why? Because they don't even want to take care of that one, like upgrades, backups, everything. I just deploy my applications, all the control plane, just let this guy manage, let the service provider manage. Okay. So there is a difference between the yesterday's cluster and today's cluster. There's a lot of difference. This is not a production grade cluster, by the way. Now, okay, I logged into the server. So things I require before is I need to download the kubectl. Before going to download the kubectl, because it won't allow me to go to the internet, there is one good tool called as enhanced IE, which will give all types of problems, by the way. So I'm going to stop that, turn it off. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the, where is the Internet Explorer? Okay, here. First I'm going to go to the download, by the way. There are some important steps if you want to work on Windows, right? There are some important steps. Let me show it to you. So I'm going to say like a kubectl download. Come down, Windows here, click on this link. It will download, save it. Okay. So view the downloads. You don't need to run actually. It's not any program to run. It will be in downloads. What I want to do is normally what I do is in my machine, because I use a lot of tools like a Terraform, Packer, after that this one kubectl, a lot of things. So what I do is I do create something called as a tools actually. Okay, and then what I'll do, I'll move whatever the tools I'm going to use, right? Actually move into that folder. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is, see, if I go to the command line, if I say kubectl, it will say command not found. Why? Because this is not a software. See, if it is a software, if you double click and install it, it will be there in the program files and system will know. This is a binary, right? It won't know. So what I'm going to do is we need to add a path. If we go to sysdm.cpl, advanced environment variables, sometimes you might not have admin rights to edit the system variables. If you do it, add it here, it will applicable for all the users, or you can also do it from here. So I'm going to do it here, edit, new, and also I'm going to go here, edit At least you can add one time, either an administrator here is fine, but I just want to show you both. Okay, and then close this off and open again because the settings should be loaded. And I'm going to right click properties, and I'm going to font, and also like cubectl version, and you're going to get the version basically, but it's saying it's refused. Now what I'm going to do is, you know, our where is this one, our this one, okay, this one, right? So this Anand config, I think it should be there in the C drive or somewhere, but I'll say save as, where is it by the way, on C Anand. Okay, okay, I'm going to go here. I'm going to right click, copy the config, copy the file. I'm going to come here, go into the drive. I'm going to paste it here, and I'm going to basically right click and rename, make it only config. That's it, just config. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to say kubectl, okay, kubectl. I'll say cluster hyphen info. Let's see what will happen, how it behaves. And it is saying that one, it is not having a connection because by default it is not taking. So what I can do here is, okay, cluster info, I can do something like this. I say kube config is equal to, so okay, we are not in the another, okay, cd c2. I thought it should take actually, that's what I thought. Okay, anyway, I say like kubectl, and I'll say like cluster hyphen info. Let's see. Okay, it's not coming. So then I will give, if it is not working, give kube config is equal to, give that config, hit enter, and see that Kubernetes master is running on 10.10.1.44. And now I'll say like I can do something like this. I can simply give, you can add a environment variable. So what I'm going to do here is, okay, every time you're going to run, for example, I say like kubectl, I say like get pods, right? It won't run by the way. Okay, again you need to give, hyphen hyphen kube config by the way. See, you need to give. So what you can do, you can actually add an environment variable for this one. So see, I am able to see everything. So again, go to sysdm.cpl by the way, and what I'm going to do is again advanced environment variables, and I'm going to the paths, edit paths, not here, sorry. I think I need to create a new one. I can say like kube config, and what I'm supposed to do here is, if I give like, copy this and paste it here and click on OK, and click on OK, OK, and I'm going to close this and open it again. Okay, I'm going to say kubectl get pods by the way, and you're getting it. You don't need to give the kube config because you have added in the environment variable. This is how you need to have the kube config file in order to, you need to share the kube config file among the people. If you want to have the admin access or name server access, anything, kube config file plays a very vital role in accessing the server. How exactly it is authenticating you, I'm simply running it. Why, how is it authenticating you? Because it is checking this one, these two actually, the server certificate as well as a key, server key, I mean certificate key actually. Based upon that, it is coming up. So this is how we're going to, so all this coming up because I want to show you something. Okay, I want to show you something how you can connect to a pod basically. Okay, so I want to see whether really it is running or not. Okay, so we know there is a service. I'll come to the service. Before even coming to the service, you deploy, you performed a deployment and these pods are running. How do I know that the website is running in this pod? One way is doing is, I can say like wide, and you can need to basically curl, and you need to make sure any one of the pod actually, I think it should not work on this one by the way. Let's see, curl should not work on this one. Why curl will not work? Earlier it was working, right? You might ask, earlier it was working. Earlier it was working. Why? Because we are actually on the master server, right? Earlier curl was working. Why? Because we are on the master server, so I run a curl and do this, and basically you are getting it. That's fine, by the way, but you are actually doing from completely different server. That's why it's not working. Normally, as I said, you're not going to log into the master server. You might be doing from your laptops or from a jump server. Now, how do I connect to this server and think that is it really the website is working or not? Yes, I'm not talking about service. We'll come to service later. There is something called as kubectl. I say like port forward, and select your pod, by the way. And oh, sorry, I need to give port forward. I need to give, for example, 8000 is to 80. Hit enter. Now what we did was we are actually forwarding all the traffic which is going to connect to this Windows server on 8000 will be sent to that pod actually. Really? Think so? Okay, let's check it out. So I'm going to say local host, by the way, local host, and I give 8000. Okay, what the heck? Hold on. Local, the name should be correct. HTTP. I give 127.0.0.1. By the way, if I give 8000, see that you are connecting it. We are able to connect to that pod actually, and you know that okay, pod is working. So sometimes what will happen is you need to troubleshoot the pod, whether the pod is properly responding or whether the website is properly responding, and you can't really go and create a service. All this is a waste of time. You can actually simply use this one and do that one. This process is actually called as port forwarding. It will be very good for troubleshooting purposes. Actually, we use it a lot whenever developer is saying that one, okay, my pod is not responding or my pod is not reachable. So you say that application is not accessible, everything, right? First thing I'm going to check is the first of all pod is working or not. I'm not going to check the load balancer, Kubernetes, ingress. No, leave about all this one. I'll start from fundamental. Is the pod is reachable first of all? If it is reachable, is it serving the traffic? So I do a port forward from my laptop, and I'm going to check it out. Is it working? Oh, now the pod is clear. That means the problem lies somewhere in the ingress or some load balancer somewhere like that. I'm going to narrow down the issue. Okay. Okay, done. So this port forwarding, you might be thinking port forwarding is fine, right? No, this is not for connecting people from outside. See, port forwarding is there for troubleshooting, connecting your laptop to or for your workstation to the pod, checking out is it working or not. But that is not what we want. We want customers from the internet basically comes and connect to your application. That is what the expectation, right? You don't want to ask users, okay, do port forwarding. No, you can't do that. He can't do that also. He required file actually, kubeconfig file. That is not what we want. The traffic will comes from the outside, right? It comes from the outside, by the way. So if the traffic is coming from the outside, how can I make sure that it reaches? That is where the service come into the picture, by the way. So the service will come into the picture. So what we'll do is, if I go to ku get svc again, services is a very big topic, almost will take like 2 to 3 hours to discuss, but at the high level I'm going to say, now if you want some traffic coming from outside to inside basically, or between, imagine not only from inside to outside, imagine, let's put like this. Imagine you have a cluster. Now this is a cluster. Imagine you have 3 deployments running. One is a web deployment, by the way. One is a web deployment. The other one is app deployment. Each one has 3 pods actually. And finally, this one is a database deployment. All have 3 pods actually. 3 pods, 3 pods, 3 pods. Now the traffic from the internet, by the way, should be able to reach to the web server. From there, the traffic will be proxy to the app server. When the order is placed, the data will go to the database server. Now that means people should directly connect to the web server, but the web server should connect to the app server, and the app server should connect to the database server. That means this one and this one are internal communication, web to app, web to. So that is why what we can say like a cluster service. Basically we can get a cluster IP service here. But when people are coming from outside, then you need to use basically called as a node port or ingress, as well as like a load balancer, something like this. Again, it's a little overwhelming right now, but we need three services. This is service one for people to connect from outside to inside. So this is a deployment. This deployment require one service. Similarly, web service need to talk to the app server, apps pods. So that's why you require the second service here, which is app service. App pods should be right to the database. So database. So the service is nothing but like a load balancer. You can't directly make pod deployments talk to each other. No. Okay, and I told you IP address don't have any value. So this service will have a name resolution and they'll connect on the, like I'm going to say name is web service, app server, DB service. They can connect on the name actually. So like this, there are normally cluster IP one service. The second service is we have node port. Third one is basically a load balancer, and also external also is there. But these three are the main: node port, load balancer, and cluster IP. Cluster IP always used for internal. You'll understand. Don't worry. So right now what I'm planning to do here is, here you can clearly see if I ku get deploy, I have a deployment with three pods, but I can't connect to it from outside. Basically I can't connect to it from outside. For example, I'm going to take the node here. I'm going to take this node, and if I basically want to nothing will work actually. So what we can do here is, so we need to create a service. By the way, how are we going to create it? Same like pod and deploy, ku expose, or else a kubectl kubectl expose service, by the way, and expose service. And then what I'm going to do here is, what is the deploy name actually? I'm going to say like expose service. So sorry, expose deploy. I'm sorry, deploy one. And I'm going to say I want this exposed on port 80, as well as I want to connect to the container which is called as target. Don't worry about all these things, we're going to talk about that once we go to the service. But I'm going to say this one, and I'm going to say hyphen type is equal to node port hyphen dry hyphen run hyphen o yaml. Oh sorry, dry run, right? Okay, I'm going to get everything, copy this to until here. Okay, I think I can also give type node port, as well as also I'm going to say like I think I'll say like node port. I want to, you can actually, it will randomly check it, but what I can do is I'll say like 32222. Okay, something like this. But I'm getting a node port is correct or not. But anyway, I'm going to copy this. Before that, if I say ku get svc, okay, I'll say ku create svc. I'll say hyphen help. What you're going to get is, so it's a cluster IP, external name, load balancer, node port. If I say node port help, so you're going to get something like this actually. So what is the port, target port, and everything actually. But anyway, echo, okay, good. Ku get svc, you can see the port is exposed in 3222 actually. Okay, so what I can do, I can go back and give the 3222, and you get this one. You get this one. This is how we are going to use the service. By the way, we're going to use the service and expose our whole uh, pod actually. So we really don't know which pod it is connecting. We really don't know. At the backend, it can load balance to any port. Real time, we don't use the node port. The reason we use the node port is for testing purposes. Before going into the production, we want to test out a lot, right? We actually do it using the node port. Later, we're going to use the load balancer. After that, ingress controller. A lot of things is there actually. Okay. 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 Any questions, guys? Any questions?
Um, when you ran few commands in the initial setup, it's what is the hold it's going to do? I mean, just hold and swap off.
Which one? Okay, so okay, this one. So what is my assumption is when you use the hold, right, it won't allow it to upgrade basically. So this apt mark, right, hold means it should not be, because we installed, somebody tried to upgrade. So most probably I never used this one. I was started using only with this one. But what it will happen is if you go here and check it out, so it should not upgrade basically. So hold mark, mark package here, prevent from package being automatically installed, upgraded or removed. That means you are protecting it so that somebody accidentally delete that kubelet or kubadmintel issue, right? That's why. And swap off is mostly this is for hibernation actually. If you hibernate it, it will or I can say like virtual memory. So you need to disable swap, otherwise what will happen is uh, the pods, there will be performance issues with the pod. Why? Because it will move because in case of a memory issues or something, right, if the swap is on, right, there is a chance that the pods might go to the virtual memory and cause issues. That's why they'll say prerequisites, you should actually use the swap. So for example, if I say swap off, for example, see this. If you run the nodes with traditional disk swap, you lose a lot of isolation properties that make sharing of virtual machines viable. There is no predictability about the performance latency. So it causes problems basically. There is, it looks like a GitHub as well, why we need to swap it off. So it is a requirement which improves the performance as well as this one. So let's see what these guys, so I have here support for swap is non-trivial. Guaranteed part should never require swap. Bustable part should be how the request met. So that all of a sudden there is a great requirement, right? Then if you start using the swap, it will cause issues. That's why it's nothing but using virtual memory. Using a virtual memory in Windows is nothing but it's a performance problem. To avoid that, they won't allow the swap. Okay,
Right.
questions,
Thanks.
guys?
So, let's say my web application is running on like hundreds of pods across hundreds of nodes.
Mhm.
Um, so, one web application is accessing a wrong configuration file or old configuration file. Some
Mhm.
version is different and all. So my testing team reported like we are not getting the expected report when, for one request. How can I
Mhm.
troubleshoot that issue? Like, how can I know like which worker is causing the issue?
It's very easy to find out basically, so to where exactly it is coming at actually. Now first thing is, if it is giving a old report, right, basically
Mhm.
if it is giving a old report, that means that pod is not actually replaced, first thing. Okay, so because normally when a deployment, if I say ku get deploy, all the pods will have, or ku get pods, all the pods inside a deployment run the same image mostly, unless you stop in between. So that means you just need to identify which pod is not actually. So you might not have like you might have hundreds of pods, but one application might not have hundreds of pods. If that is the case, you don't have any choice. You have some third party tools also to get visibility what is the image it is using. So you need to find that black sheep, why it is not actually updated, because your problem is beyond the reporting. You need to find out why that particular pod didn't upgraded, and is the same case, or all the pods in that machine are didn't upgraded. So you need to pull out the describe that pod and what happened, take out the logs actually, and then you need to remove that node basically to find out what is happening and everything. So the troubleshooting go beyond your pod, it will go to a next level actually. Why? Because it might be a problem with the cluster, because in normally when you roll out updates, all the pods will get the same image. If you something is not getting, that means there is some network issue or it is not properly communicating. Something should be there, right? And most probably it will happen at the server level, not at the pod level. So you need to troubleshoot in that way.
Okay, but what if my image is up to date, but my configuration files, what do you say, volumes, right?
No,
Um,
let me tell you. See, what will happen is you might be you might be telling the config maps more. Most probably you are referring to the not
uh,
volumes, config
uh,
maps. Okay.
yeah, yes,
Now, when the config maps also, when you are deploying here, when you are actually deploying where is this one? I am actually using this, right? So in the deployment, you are going to put your config maps as a volumes here, and it will be applicable for the whole deployment, not for this one. So again, if it is only one server is not getting it, first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to terminate that part. Okay,
okay,
why? Because so that it will get a new image pulled out and create a new one. Okay, so one thing I can say that if you use same tags, everything, image pull policy is not there, then you'll get some problems with that one. Again, it requires extensive troubleshooting. We can't simply pinpoint this is the issue, right?
yeah, that's yeah. Thank you.
Questions?
Sure, that
Okay,
is suppose
yes, yeah.
so while deploying the application, I'm getting some crash loop backup kind of instead of running. In this case, what I need to do?
Crash loop log, there are a lot of problems. Might be one problem will be the image is wrong, or you might be the image tag is wrong actually. And sometimes what will happen is you assign some secret which is not there, or you assign some volume which is not there. There are like 100 reasons. Crash loop backup is a very generic. So best thing what I do is, if I want to troubleshoot,
Hmm.
imagine, let's do something like this. I'll say like ku run pod. Okay, and I'm going to
Hmm.
say like test pod 007, and I'm going to say like I want to give pod, I just give test pod 00, test pod 007, and I'm going to say hyphen image is equal to say nginx, and I'm going to give as for example, imagine something like this. Okay, the pod will get created, but ku describe, so, or kubectl, you see that, this one. So something like this.
Yeah.
Once, so then what, same thing, you'll get a crash loop also. Even sometimes what will happen is you require some passwords or some config maps. If you don't provide that one as well, it will fail. Sometimes what will happen, your pod will have a dependency on a different pod. For example, there is a database, so the database is not startup. So what will happen is this is not able to connect to database, then again you will get a crash actually. Then best thing is you need to describe pod and do that one, and it will spit on our face what is happening. See, it's a error pull image. Okay,
Okay. Suppose same application, another guy can able to that running it while deploying it is showing as a running. In this case, whether that resource also need to be that authentication kind of things.
we can't
Uh-huh.
say that one. As I said, like crash loop it happens for many things actually, but if the same application is working for other guy, no, that's not going to happen. Because because if the application can contain multiple pods, basically, right, app, web app, db and everything, there is some sort of a dependency you are missing. So your config has something is missing, then only you'll get that one. If the other guy is working and it is not working, definitely there is a change in the configuration. You need to figure it out by using the version control, where check out the last few commits and check it out what is the change happened.
Oh, okay. That is that namespace is allocating for the different person in the team. If it is same team also, so 2 or 3 people are working. They have the different namespace, or the same namespace will become to while deploying the application.
If there are different applications, different namespaces, depends upon the client, right? If the client
No,
wants their
same
customer,
application only.
doesn't matter. If the same application, you can deploy in the same namespace, but you don't want to, if multiple developers are working, they prefer to have their own, because they have their own kube configs, they have their own testing environments, right? They deploy in their namespaces, but production will be always in one namespace.
So one namespace, anyone can also deploy that any
If they
resource.
have if they have access, yes.
So at a
Questions?
time, any two guys can do that job. If it is the same namespace, means whether deploying that application means what will happen.
Nothing will happen as long as they are using a different names. Nothing will happen. It will deploy it. So if you give the same name, if the deployments is like you are going deploy one, the other guy is also giving deploy one, it will give error because the name is already there. See, namespace is like a home. Okay, so it's like a house actually, and it has rooms. If you are living in your room, your friend is living in other room, there is no problem. Okay, if both are living in one room, that then obviously you need to share the bed. It's a problem, right? So similarly, namespace, multiple people can use it if they have access. But if they are deploying some deployment, okay, doing a deployment and give a name as deployment one, the other guy should not give the same name. They should give us a different name because it's the same namespace.
Okay.
Questions, guys?
The config file you said now how to retrieve
You
some
need to wait.
data.
No,
Okay.
you need to wait. We are yet to cover that one.
Okay.
Questions, guys?
Thank you.
Questions, folks? Are we clear? Okay, so we have 15 minutes more. I want to stop it here. We'll be completing in another next 15 minutes. So any questions you can ask, by the way. I can answer the questions, career related or technical questions, not far beyond, because we still have time to discuss a lot of. So it will take almost 2 months to complete this course. So don't worry. I'll give as much as information. So don't worry. Yes.
Hi, hi, sir. So
Mhm.
there's a certificate in the Kubernetes which is expires every year, I believe. So
Mhm.
if you don't want to rebuild the cluster, but just want to update the certificate, is it possible?
You're talking about Kubernetes certificate, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, I think if you use the default certificate of a kube admin, yes, it will expire in 1 year. So you need to what we can do is we can actually roll out the certificates. You need to upgrade it. So, or if you use a third party certificate for many years,